Hey guys, thank you so much for joining in. We decided to, so first of all, my name is Nikita Starov. I'm the CEO and co-founder of KinesteX. And we have Vladimir here, who is our co-founder and CTO. And a few weeks back, we decided to start this community called FitTech Community, where we invited our existing partners, our friends from around the world, essentially, to have the very, very meaningful conversation in one place where we can all gather up together, share the ideas, share the thoughts, and share what everybody is doing. The whole goal of the community is to make the fit tech, health tech, wellness companies from around the world together to brainstorm ideas, to meet with each other, to connect with each other, and so on. We were very excited to introduce our existing partners to other partners. So we thought, why don't we gather everybody in the same place to make it all happen? And as a part of this community, we decided to have kind of morning talks. For now, it's planned maybe once a week, maybe once a month. We haven't figured out yet. This is our first one, and thank you all for joining. In this conversation, we're going to speak about how we're using AI in our day-to-day life as the co-founders of the company, and specifically how we use AI for the product roadmap from the product development standpoint. And that's why we have here also our co-founder, Vladimir. We've been building this company together for roughly 3 years by now. And Vladimir is the one who went through this whole journey when we started it all, when we did not have the AI almost at all in the world, to now to the point when we use AI on a daily basis, maybe a few hours a day, sometimes, at least for me, and Vladimir will share his journey. Vladimir, could you please introduce yourself?
Yep, sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Vlad. I'm co-founder and CTO of KinesteX, and I use AI pretty much daily. It all started like before ChatGPT. We used to go and search for stuff. Now, in my day-to-day, I wake up, I open Claude, it greets me, it shows me a breakdown of what has happened. When I start working, I ask it questions, it implements some stuff for me. Then I have another agent that reviews the work and then tells me, hey, you might have missed this. And then when I go to sleep, AI works in the background as I sleep. So like pretty much the whole day, I'm surrounded with that. It's a very interesting thing, and I cannot wait to share like some of the setups, some of the things, and where it's all headed, because it's changing quite fast. If you look at people, I think like average people who have been using ChatGPT just through their interface might not have noticed a generational shift, but people who have been using it from the start and where it is now, it's quite a leap because of all of the tools which have been built around it. So,
This is super exciting. This is actually quite a journey. I remember when one of the first GPTs came out and we got an access to it, to the API, and we were playing around with it. It wasn't near to what it is today at all. So basically, it was just a chatbot that allowed us to ask some questions, get some answers, and some of the answers were not very relevant at all. And such a speed at which it all happened suddenly like that. It's like we don't even notice how we use AI on a very daily basis, like a lot of it. And not only in the daily basis, for example, for me, I use it for a lot of personal matters, right? For example, my personal health, sometimes, very rarely, the relationship, in my personal life a lot, to ask a lot of curious questions, to speak with it, to understand the concept, to educate myself. But this apart, the work has changed, at least for us, quite a lot in this whole time. And Vladimir, here, I would love to discuss with you in this conversation how your work has changed and what essentially, how AI helps you to develop the product where it is, to bring the ideas, to brainstorm the ideas, to make the research, and so on. Let's start with the first one. How do you use AI on a daily basis for productivity as a CTO and the product person as well?
Yes, so I will go very briefly through the overview of what I use and how I use, and then we'll go a little bit in detail on why and how is everything exactly changing, and why people should actually start getting prepared for this, because we actually have gone through this type of revolution, well, through this type of development before. So let me just quickly share my screen. Let me know if everyone can see it.
Yep, I can see very clearly the logo of Claude.
Yep. So this is the main tool that I use. It's an app. If you haven't tried it already, it's exactly as ChatGPT, but it has a lot of different products that are super useful for development. ChatGPT also has it, so you can choose pretty much any AI agent that works for you, but there are only two that provide a set of tools that are great and that can help you replicate what I'm going to be talking about today. So Claude is one of those tools. I chose it because it had a super huge leap in development, and I think it still does. I do try ChatGPT from time to time, and Claude still gives me the best results. I trust it more. So I use Claude day to day. For the planning step, where I just want to quickly figure out some stuff, I just use their normal chat interface. You're probably all familiar with it. It's ChatGPT type of stuff, nothing special. You just ask it a question, it does the search, it gives you the answer. That's it. For the prototyping stage, and this is where I think I will expand a little bit more. For the prototyping stage, I use Claude Design. It's a product that's embedded inside of the Claude, and it allows you through the same chat interface. You just prompt your way through, and then it creates you the mockup file, which you can share. So this is the first thing that I think is very important to highlight in the product development space. You, let's say, as a product manager or as a CEO, a non-tech person, you previously did not have many opportunities and many tools to showcase what you want. You just somewhat like had to describe the idea, then send it to the developer, and then hope that the developer implements it or a designer implements it the way that you want, which is great and stuff, but it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of effort. And the main thing which this tools allows you to do is just to prototype your way through and have a small working version that you can show to the team that will then implement it and make it production ready. So the first tool which I have here is Claude Design. Claude Design just allows you to do the mockup. It doesn't allow you to do very extended interactions or like some forms or anything like that. If you want to actually build a production-ready app, you would have to use a different tool called Claude Code. But Claude Design allows you to give your team a general idea of what you imagine. The second tool, which I often use for the prototyping, is called Claude Code. Claude Code actually does write the code. So it will write the code for the interactions, for whatever logic you can imagine. It will implement it. And it's a very useful tool for prototyping as well, because code is the cheapest thing right now. We will also go through it in detail a little later, but writing code is the cheapest thing that you can imagine right now. So Claude Code will just output somewhat usable code, which you can then present to the team and stakeholders, and then explore if this idea is worth building. For the implementation part, I use Claude Code. I can usually, my full workflow goes as following. I do sometimes the planning if I have to actually research if this feature is possible. So I would start with the Claude chat. I would just ask it questions. I would ask it to please research, please come with answers and any edge cases. So, and once I have a plan in text, I then go into Claude Code. If I already have the project set up, if I already have the whole code base where I wanted to start working, and then I will just copy paste the whole plan, and it will go ahead and implement it for me. Then once I have the working prototype, once I have something that I can touch, something that I can share with people, and if the feedback is positive, I can then go ahead and do the implementation. So usually for me, it goes like that. I think we have a question.
Yep, I have a quick question. So I remember back in the day, back in 2023, 2022, when we were just first thinking of the idea of the company that we're building right now, it would take, just the prototyping would take approximately 2 weeks,
Yes.
10 days to 2 weeks.
Exactly.
And it was a lot of planning. There are a lot of people involved, the product manager, the designer. And then, of course, always we needed to advise with the developer how it's going to be implemented. Is it possible or not? How long does it take you these days to prototype something?
It takes minutes to go from an idea to something clickable, something that you can share with people. It takes minutes because all you have to do is just explain, and you will have the ready-made design, which might not be super functional. Or if you want something functional, you could just also tell it, please just make me a mock-up prototyping something that you can share with people and they can click on it. So it used to take weeks, now it takes minutes, and that's the shift that is happening. And it's very important to understand it, and it's very important to like jump on this board, because the funny thing is that I will actually talk a little bit about that later, but it takes weeks. Sorry, it used to take weeks and now it takes minutes. Yes.
Let's carry on.
So yeah, so once I have something implemented, I also have an agent that then reviews my work. So you can see like it's a cycle. Basically, I do the planning in Claude, I do the work, like a prototype work in Claude, I implement everything in Claude, and then after I submit my changes, Claude goes ahead and reviews practically its own work. And it's just to get a second opinion, because it's not deterministic. The model behavior is not deterministic. If you ask it something, let's say, right now, and then you ask it the same question 10 minutes ago, it will respond differently. So it's always a good idea to double check your work with another agent. So that's one of the workflows which I have. And we'll also share this presentation with you. There's a quick link which you can go ahead and see the agents which we have working and reviewing the code, so that you can implement the same thing. And one useful idea that I want to share with you today is that if you already have your product team, the developers, you can ask them to give you read-only access, meaning that you will not be able to submit anything destructive, but you will be able, your Claude agent will be able to get access to the code base. So it will be able to read the data, read how the code is written, read how the intricate parts of your system work, and it will be able to give you better planning. So the first thing that I would recommend you try out is just give Claude better context. You get read-only access to your code base, then you start asking it questions. You start asking questions, and if you have any features or ideas that you want to implement, you could just give a plan to your team, and then your team will actually see, for example, work in this file, that, and will be able to implement it way faster. It was the first iteration which we tried in our team. It worked extremely well, where the product people had read-only access, so they could not destruct anything, they could not touch anything, and they were able to give ready-made plans to the developers where everything is thought through, because the agent did it. It went through the code base, it analyzed it, it came up with the edge cases, and then it gave the whole plan. So then you as a product person share it with the development team, and the development team goes ahead and implements it and then reviews it. So that's one thing. And then the path which we're moving towards is a self-improving loop. Basically, what I've just described, but without the human in the loop. Right now, at every stage, there is a human. Like currently, at every stage, I'm involved. For example, for me to come up with the idea, I have to first gather the data. Once I gather the data, I have to analyze it. Of course, Claude can do it, but I have to guide it through every stage. And then once the data is analyzed, I have to do the improvements. So what we're experimenting right now inside the team, and I think the whole industry is going to move towards that, is a completely self-improving loop. The agents are going to get the data, then they're going to analyze it, then they're going to come up with ideas, and then they're going to implement the ideas. And all you have to do is just press a button, and it's live to people. It might sound scary. It is in a way scary, but it's just one implementation of what I wanted to share. Claude also has a product for that. That's why I use Claude for pretty much everything. Claude has a product called Claude Routines, which allows you to schedule automated tasks. So for example, at night, when I sleep at 4 a.m. in the morning, Claude goes through our data analytics, and we use PostHog for that. So it goes through the usage. It sees where the people have dropped, what were they clicking, where are the dead clicks, all of that. So it analyzes the data. Then it goes to Sentry to collect any errors which happen throughout the day, maybe throughout the week. So it analyzes all of that data, and then it creates an idea. like, I have this idea, I've seen that the issues which are happening, so I have this idea, and then it implements it. So it actually writes the code, it tests the code, and then once everything is tested, it presents it to me in the morning. So it tells me, like, I've done this, please review it, it's tested, it has passed through other agents, so it's ready. And then I review it, and if it's ready, I just send it. So right now, it doesn't work super well. It doesn't implement anything super huge, but it does do some small improvements step by step. For example, one small issue which I would have missed unless I had to go through it manually, it just found something small and then it implemented it. And next morning, I just reviewed it and pushed it to production. So this is the very small implementation that we have in the team that currently does this. There was a question.
Yep, there are very quick question. Just for more people to understand, could you please clarify PostHog and Sentry?
Yes.
What are these and what do they do?
PostHog is an amazing tool for data analytics, for product analytics. So anything that you have, if you have a website, if you have a mobile app, you can connect it to PostHog. It's like Google Analytics, but better because it allows you to do way more stuff. So it's for the product analytics to see how many users you had, what are the retentions, what are the channels, all of that. And for Sentry is the error tracking tool. Basically, anything that's any issue that the user encounters inside the app, it captures that, and then it gives me where it happened, why it happened, how it happened. So it's a tool for error tracking.
Hey, Nikita, can you post the link to that so we can read a bit more about it?
Oh yeah,
yes,
absolutely.
of course.
Fantastic.
After the meeting, we will share this mini presentation.
Yep, and also a few links. So Vlad, to clarify even better for the people who are not very tech savvy at the moment, to whom I feel like the AI is helping much more than to the technical people at the moment, because we're able to prototype, right? So this specific automation you're saying, during the nighttime when you sleep, it goes to PostHog, which has all the product data for the last, the whole product data for the last day, week, month, and so on, right?
Yeah.
It analyzes that data while you sleep. It sees some things that it can improve, or some inconveniences, or some maybe bugs, or some maybe drops in the usage. So then it analyzes. It goes to Sentry also, which tracks all the bugs and errors in the code, in the production, and everything. And then, does it tell you about it, or does it go and directly improve something in the product?
It goes and directly improves it. So here you can see that I also put the repository. So I put the whole access to the code base to this agent. So it cannot do anything destructive. It only works in its own little environment, but it does have access to the code. So it will make its own automatic decisions. I did specify to not do anything drastic, because then it's just hard to review. However, it does do some small improvements based on the data.
Just one example of the small improvement that it did in the last week, maybe, if you can share.
Of course. So one example of the small improvement, let's say that we have a website, and it is what actually has happened. We have a website, and in the website, you have a button. And let's say that the button is like the whole width of the device. So it's super big, and then there is a text on the button. So what happened was that the developer has made only the text clickable. So there's a huge button, and however, only the text is clickable, and you cannot click outside of the text. So what this agent has done is it analyzed PostHog rage clicks, like basically people who were clicking on the empty spots very, very rapidly and couldn't get anything done. It analyzed it, and then it figured out, okay, so the only text is clickable, and people are trying to click on the whole button, and it doesn't work. So it just did the small improvement. It was just one line of code, and it changed it so that the whole button becomes clickable instead of just the text inside the button. So that's just one small example, which is very easy to oversee in the development. It's very easy to oversee. We normally just click, we usually just test it once or twice for like one or two people, but Claude has access to the whole data set of users and the whole product road journey that the users go through. So it can detect and analyze that very efficiently. while you
Wow.
sleep. And that's the beautiful thing. Yeah, while you sleep.
So now I'm just thinking back in the day, back in 2023, for something like this, for us to find, we had to look like the analytic in the team, the data analytic in the team had to go through all the data, see anomalies, right? Would come to the product person and say, look, there are some anomalies we think that we need to fix. So that's what's happening. Product manager would analyze it, understand the issue, and give it to the developer, notify the developer, put that in the next sprint for the next 2 weeks, sometime to fix that issue, depending on the severity, right? So the whole process would take about 3 weeks. And now you just woke up and it's fixed.
Yep, exactly. It's a beautiful and scary part as well. It's scary for a lot of people, and there's a concept even called AI hysteresis right now, where a lot of people go into depression because it's so like a lot of people's jobs are going to be obsolete. But the idea is not new. Like, we have seen this movie before, so it might seem a little bit complex right now to actually set it all up. It took me about an hour. You just click on buttons, and all you have to do is just put in text of what to do. So here, as you can see, I added connectors, I added Gmail, Google Calendar. They're not really necessary. The important part are PostHog and Sentry. And I added the code access. And then I wrote the instructions. So it all that it took me is just a few clicks. And it's a new way to build. And I recently watched a video by this guy, Theo. He's a developer. I would recommend you to watch it. He explained it pretty well. He does go in a very technical aspect of the things, but his whole concept and his whole speech was that it's not new. Everything that we're seeing right now has already happened before, and it happened with the cloud. So, for example, life before the cloud, and by cloud in AWS, Google Cloud, Azure, life before the cloud was very capital intense, meaning that you had to buy your own servers. You had to predict and guess how many users you would have, because if you don't buy enough, you will be crushed. Or if you buy too many, you're going to run out of money. And this was like 20 or so years ago. Also, you had to, the whole experimentation to even justify the fact that you had to spend the money buying the servers, installing everything, paying for the electricity, it was super expensive. And after the cloud, once AWS came out, once Google Cloud came out, you can start pretty much anything. Anything has a website right now. The whole experimentation flow is cheap. You don't need to hire people who will be setting up the servers in your room. You don't have to pay for the electricity, anything like that. So it has become extremely easy after the cloud. So like 15 or so years ago. And we're getting into the same type of evolution with AI. Now building the code is the cheapest part, because Claude can just output it super efficiently. And that's why it is scary. But at the same time, it's also revolutionary, because it allows you to do so much more. Let's say 2 or 3 years ago, everything that you had to do as a product manager was just become the glue, just be the glue between the teams. Let's say you were just orchestrating different developers. Now you could be even more of help to the developers, or even in some places, just become the developer, simply because you can plan the whole thing, analyze the whole thing with AI, implement the whole thing, prototype the whole thing, and then share it with the stakeholders. Sorry. It might sound as if developers are obsolete, but the same thing applies to the developers, because right now, reviewing the code, setting up automations, which I've told you about, it still takes expertise. It still takes time. It still takes a lot of effort. You can do way more right now. If, for example, right now, to implement the whole Slack, let's say, we use Slack in the team very heavily. If right now to implement the Slack, you had to think about so many steps, you had to think about the different implementations levels and all of that. Right now, you can implement the Slack just yourself within a week. It's super easy, just by typing through your way through it. It might not be the best Slack version, of course, without the expertise. And that's where the developers come in to make it scale. Because Claude, even though it does give so much power to the product people, it also gives exponential amount of power to the developers, because you can now imagine and implement systems so powerful they could compete with like super huge players like Slack. I wish somebody replaced Slack and made a better version of Slack, because Slack just sucks. It's not a great product, given that now you can build a lot of different apps super quickly. So I think in the next few years we will have way better alternatives, way better products, given that the experienced developers will be working on it and have 10x the output capacity.
Fantastic. No, I'm sometimes the whole craziness with the AI that we're experiencing makes me think a lot and dig deeper into the work that we're doing. There's the whole world is kind of divided on the AI right now. So there are a big portion of people who are very scared of the outcomes that it could bring, that AI can automate everything, replace everyone. There's also the equivalent amount of people who are taking these opportunities, understanding all the value that AI brings into the product development, into the product prototyping, and so on, and just implement it as soon as possible. What I see right now, at least with our team, Vlad, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that all these tools are amazing for prototyping and the initial stages. I believe still, because I believe that in scaling the product, it still requires tons of developer expertise, because AI cannot decide which tools would work with other tools, what kind of infrastructure to pick on. It still requires a lot of expertise. I can build, I believe, a prototype right now, but if I want to scale it to 100,000 users, 1 million users, and so on, I won't be able to do it without the proper infrastructure where exactly the expertise of the developers need it.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. The whole thing is just that it makes the pathing, the prototyping stage, basically allowed for anyone. It gives you a tool which allows you to build super powerful tools within the team. For example, a very recent example, we had an issue that with some of our clients, the iterating loop in terms of the conversation would take a little long. Like they would ask a question, we would ask a question back, and to give them an answer, it would take like 10 different iterations of questions. So we built an internal tool which has access to our knowledge base. So it has access to our documentation, to our product roadmap, to our change log. And as soon as a client types in a question, it will ask it follow-up questions to make sure that it understands the problem that the client has. It's an amazing tool. It took me about a day to build it. I thought everyone would use it. The fact is nobody uses it. Nobody uses it. It's just faster for the clients to send a message on WhatsApp or on Telegram and have us figure it out, which is the cool thing. I mean, previously, to implement something like that, it would have taken 2-3 weeks. I did it in a day. I thought it would work. It didn't work. Okay, it's just a throwaway type of thing. It was a prototype. I built it just to see if it will work. It doesn't work, and that's it. And you can throw it away. So experimenting has become extremely simple.
Fantastic. That brings us exactly the conversation about the developers and this doom and gloom scenario kind of brings us to the point. How has your communication with the team changed over time? What is different, let's say now, from what was 2-3 years ago with a team of developers, between the product managers and so on?
Yes. So the biggest thing that has changed, I would say, is the expectation. Because of course I use this tool daily. We all use this tool daily. We have workshops with the team that showcase how to use this tool. So the biggest thing that has changed is the expectation. Because right now the first thing which we did in our team is prototype-led development. Basically, we don't very often actually even explain the idea through text. We just explain it through images or through like AI-generated images or AI-generated workflows, or even direct links which we can click and interact with. So that's the first thing which has changed. We communicate now with prototypes. We show, like, we don't tell. And that's the biggest thing that has changed in the communication. And I think it's a beautiful thing because it removes so many iterations. It removes and saves so much time and confusion just by simply showing people what you want them to do.
So basically what you're saying is that now it's very easy to build something and test rather than it used to be a few years back.
Yes, exactly. And one point, which I think is also pretty important to highlight, is that I think you should be testing more. The key takeaway that I want you to have from this whole meeting is that before Google Cloud and before AWS and before the cloud, it was super expensive to try an idea. Now with AI, it's very cheap to try the idea. So there's really not a lot of reasons to reject something, given that you can try it extremely quickly with the limited number of people. So, yeah.
No, that's fantastic. That's what we're seeing in the team actually. In the last, I would say, in the last year, and specifically in the last 6 months, I'm seeing that instead of when there is an idea from either our client, our partner to implement something or to try something. I remember a year ago, we would say, oh yeah, sure, we will be able to do it in 2 weeks or in 3 weeks. We would be able to show you something before they even tell us if that's something that they need or no. Or we would design a prototype on Figma, would take 3 days of developers' time, of the designer's time, build a Figma, not even clickable, just a Figma file, general how it looks. We would send it, get approval, then put it into the development to get the first prototype. Now, what I'm seeing right now, at least inside of our team, is that when there is a request for a new assessment in KinesteX, a new type of workout, a new type of user journey, we are prototyping it, and we're able to ship in the next 2 hours to the client or to a lead for them to try it out. And this has been a fascinating journey. Some things that we request and they're done within the next 2 to 3 hours. This is just, at least in my mind, it's still, I'm not used to it yet. I'm not used to the speeds at which we're moving right now. But this is definitely exciting and fascinating.
Yep.
I would like to ask another question. So besides the self-improvement model that you've built while you're that works while you're sleeping, analyzes the data, builds something, how do you use currently AI for maybe for user analysis to analyze the user bases to see for what works for whom and so on?
Yep. So as I've mentioned, we use PostHog, but in reality, it will work with pretty much any analytics tool you have. And Claude and many other AI apps have this notion as connectors. So you can connect different tools so that Claude itself can fetch the data. I'm sure that a lot of other analytics tools already introduced their own AI agents. For example, PostHog itself, the tool which we use, inside of it already has a chat feature, which you can just type in. It will answer any question that you have. So making dashboards and making different analytics tool and analytical insights is just basically a few prompts away. So what this means is that I would imagine also is that it's possible to create your own analytical dashboards and something like as an interesting insight every day. So you could set up a routine, or you could set up a skill that by the time you wake up will give you an insight of this is what happened in the past week. This is something interesting which I've discovered, and you could analyze way more than you could before because it will just do it completely automatically. Now, granted, it will do mistakes because data, it all depends on how you organize the data. But if you offload this work to Claude, you have to make sure that the whole data flow is organized neatly and like it makes sense what you see. So always scrutinize everything that it produces, but to get the insights is extremely simple.
This is fascinating. Truly, this is some things that we're discussing in this call. A few things I'm actually hearing for the first time, and this is exciting. I remember, and by the way, guys, Vlad is the one that pushes. Not only he learns about the newest developments in the AI in the world and tries to implement it, he also is the one to push the team to start using them as soon as possible, because this is super important. What I see in the team communication is that Vlad, I saw that journey from of Vlad specifically, of when he was the person to essentially work with the project manager and the product manager, understanding the requirements, setting the tasks to the team, putting everything into the sprint. That was reviewing the code, of course, analyzing the bugs, analyzing a lot of things, right? That would take a lot of time. He went from that person, slowly, he's moving towards the person where he sees a new amazing AI tool, he tests it, understands it, and then puts the whole team together and teaches them how to use it for better productivity in the team. This is what I'm seeing in the team. And that's something I feel like very important, to have this kind of early adopter in the team who is very curious about the new technologies, tries, understands them, and then teaches all the rest of the team how to use it for a better productivity. Because that's what I noticed inside of our team. And this has been really, really, really useful for us. I see the speed at which we're moving, the speed at which we're able to iterate the product and so on. And how do you, Vlad, by the way, that's a very good question that I just came up with. How do you find all those tools? Is there an update that is shipped directly into your brain from the AI about the new tools, or how do you find all those tools?
The cool thing is that practically everything that I do revolves around one app. It's just Claude. And if you cannot find the tool that you want, you can just build it. So, for example, I don't use that many tools right now. Well, actually, I think I might have just gotten so used to it that I don't use them. I don't see them as a tool. I see them as a day-to-day thing. But in terms of the channels, you could go on Twitter. Twitter is a very cool space. YouTube, the video from the guy which I was talking about, even though he's very technical, you can still, as a product person, you could still watch him and find some ideas, because sometimes he speaks about AI, he speaks about the general shift, which is very interesting to listen to. So, yeah. But if you cannot find something that you think is very cool, and for example, it's one of the things which I've done for myself, because I do a lot of parallel development, meaning that I work on multiple things at the same time, and sometimes I just forget. So let's say I ask a very quick question, and then I start working on something else, and my full focus is on that one thing. I've made a notification system which just displays me what things I'm working in parallel and which ones need my attention, straight into Claude. So as I'm typing, Claude will just tell me, you have one pending notification across multiple projects which I'm working on. So you can build your own tools if you cannot find something that's already made.
And just for you specifically, and that's also interesting to me, because I don't think we have discussed it in a day-to-day. If you calculate by the percentage-wise, all the tools that you've implemented in the last month, do you go and search for tools versus do you go and build the tool quickly for you and the team? What would be the distribution?
So I have practically, unless it's so I do search for tools. Well, I tell Claude to search for tools, and I search only for open source tools, meaning that somebody has built it, I can see the code. If necessary, I can modify it. Because if I get stuck behind a paywall or something like that, and I would rather not use that tool. So for a lot of cases recently, my first prompt is always search for open source tools for what I need. If there's nothing like that, I just build it myself, because it will take like a few minutes. And the cool thing about Claude, it has an auto mode, which can just go on and work for itself for like 30 minutes, an hour, maybe 2 hours. And it will test everything itself, and it will give you a ready-made thing which you can just use internally. So for internal usage, you don't really need to have a developer who will do something for you. You can just go ahead from the Claude, and it will do something that works, something that you will never have to publish, that nobody will see, but it will work for you. So in that case, I don't even check any code. It's just a throwaway garbage in a way.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fascinating. And that, for me personally, I'm still on the side that if I need a tool in my day-to-day work, I would rather go and search for a ready-made tool than build myself. Maybe because I'm not that exposed to the AI development like you are. But that's something that I might need to embrace. But I'm a kind of a guy that if I need something immediately right now that is working, that I don't have to think about a lot, and I might not even have to use on a daily basis much, just sometimes, like CRM, for example. I wouldn't go and build a CRM. I would use the existing solution because there were teams of hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of people who were building it over the last decade, thought of all the edge cases and so on. So I would rather go and use the existing tool, for example. But for me, in my day-to-day life, actually, just recently experienced something very interesting. So I'm using Claude since Vlad, you about a year ago moved me, forced me to move into the cloud by showing all the stuff that it can do. And before that, I was using Grok, I was using ChatGPT, and at some point for short period of time, I was testing DeepSeek, the Chinese model. So I moved to the cloud, and for me, the life hasn't been the same since. So I just thought about it very carefully I think it was a week ago or 10 days ago or so, when I was sitting and I got into the limit of tokens that I can use. And I had to wait for about 2 hours for them to be refilled, right? And I was shocked how helpless I felt in those 2 hours. I feel like we are very much reliant right now. Even in my work, I'm very much reliant on the AI tools because in my work, I'm mostly in fundraising, legal, overseeing the product a little bit, just on the high level and so on. So everywhere by a little bit. That's too much information to hold in one head. And I would always forget about stuff. But now I have like one kind of knowledge base inside of my code. I have one project with a knowledge base. I have different chats for different kind of vectors of the company. There would be legal, there would be fundraising, there would be partner, there would be client, there would be prod, everything. And in those 2 hours, while I was waiting for the limit to refill, I was feeling helpless. I was feeling like, okay, what do I do now?
You actually called me and you asked me, how can I set up an automation that will ask the question when my things refill? Yeah, because it was at night and you wanted to go to sleep. So yeah, even and also recently Uber published that they've spent their whole annual budget in the first quarter, that they've introduced this like unlimited tokens type of stuff and encouraged the whole team to start building. The thing that happened with Uber is that the whole team did start building a lot of stuff, but a lot of the stuff which they built, 99% of the stuff which they built wasn't used. So they spent a lot of money and 99% of the stuff which they've built was not used at all by anyone. So there is definitely this point where you have to be creative in a way, but just don't waste the time building stuff which nobody will use. Like there's no price on creativity. It was true in the past before cloud. It's still true. AI cannot replace the creativity. It cannot replace the energy that you have to put in to make the work happen. It will do anything you ask, and you have to pay for it. So you better ask stuff that makes sense and that your energy is worth of.
Absolutely. And I feel like that helped us as a team a lot in the research. Me personally, being the CEO and doing all the tasks across everything. But I feel like the research is a part of work right now, both for you, for our CPO, for our team members, for our head of growth, for everybody in the team. Research is something that I feel like AI, at least in my work, is extremely productive. For instance, when I get ready for the investor meetings, when I get ready for the partner meetings and so on, I always what would take me a few hours before of research, Googling, understanding across the different social media, across LinkedIn and everything. Instead of doing all of that step by step, analyzing and seeing and researching, I would just ask Claude to make a research, and it would give me a very, very good responses. Not like it used to be a year ago. A year ago, that I wasn't satisfied at all with AI research. Now I'm shocked by the speed at which it moved, because not only it brings me the quality data about the company I'm about to speak to, but also it kind of preps me at what angle I should, let's say, pitch KinesteX, for example, to the company. What are the latest news that they've had in week, and why these news are relevant to KinesteX, and so on. And not only that, it researches the company from the angle of KinesteX, which is the most fascinating one. And I feel like that's something that I personally use as one of the day-to-day tools in my work, besides many other tools and many other use cases, but specifically for this. But so yeah, that's essentially all the questions that I've had for you, Vlad. That was super, super, super productive. And we still have some people here in the call, and let's leave some room for the questions. Maybe there are some interesting questions that the people would want to ask and understand more from us. Guys, does anybody have questions?
Hi, Nikita. I think I'll have this question for you. Since KinesteX is selling ready to plug in fitness solutions for fitness companies and healthcare companies, right? How do you think the approach of product manager is changing when you kind of pitch the product to them? Because earlier everything needed to be coded from scratch, everything needed to be built from scratch, let it be workout libraries or vision computing or whatever you guys are trying to sell right now as a single bundled product. How are they shocked at the sophistication? Are they shocked? Are they shocked at the kind of quality of SDK which you guys are kind of providing? Because product managers or technologies always thought that it's always good to code from scratch. But are they really happy and excited to see the kind of product which you hand over to them and the kind of speed which it gives to them in terms of execution?
Absolutely. That's a very, very, very good point of view. And what we're seeing right now is that a year and a half ago, when we started selling, that was a completely different conversation. When we started selling this SDK product, which we thought would be very easy to implement a year and a half ago, it would actually take quite some time to understand, to research, to integrate, then test, and then roll out. And so each one of those 5 points used to take quite a long time.
Understood.
And now with the AI tools that we're using and building across our product suite, and also giving to our clients and partners, is that instead of integrating and dedicating a whole development team to that, they can just speak with a chatbot, get the relevant information for them, copy and paste it into their code base, and run it immediately. So instead of going through that whole product iteration and building and planning and so on, the companies now these days can test something in like 2 days like that. They can. Funny thing is, we did very, very important. Vlad came with the very cool initiative. Because there are AI tools that are at our hand, Vlad came with the initiative saying, guys, how about you all, team members, try to build your product and try to integrate KinesteX to go through the journey yourself to understand it better.
Amazing. Amazing.
What we were not able to do 2 years ago, all of us went and vibe coded a small platform, right? And then Vlad gave us the tools of the chatbot of KinesteX, for example. And what I did, I just copy pasted the responses from both chatbots to each other. And I was able to integrate KinesteX in 20 minutes.
Wow.
And made it running on the website. So instead of taking like few months of development, now we can do it in 1 day.
Understood. Great. Thank you for answering that question. We are also deliberating. Because if you know, I'm the founder of SlayFit. I'm in touch with the team to integrate
Fantastic.
to get the solution up and running. We have been using a white labeled solution. We are not happy. We are trying to figure out the right customer journeys, the right user flows, and the right design team. So KinesteX is in our top consideration.
Very nice to hear that. Super
I had
excited
it.
to be with you.
I liked the demo. I liked the quality of the demo. I liked how clean it is. So the two primary use cases for us is, one is the workout library. Second is the AI powered workout guide or workout coach.
That's something where we used AI the most at the moment, and we were able to iterate very quickly um, on the stuff that we're doing there. So what again used to take us a few months of development, we can test before the production. We can test everything internally in days and ship very quickly all the updates.
Understood. Great. I'm in touch with your team. I'll maybe touch base again to test the APIs and see what we can create together, powered by KinesteX.
Fantastic. Let's do it. Very excited. We have a quick question here. Vladimir, the question is for you. So in terms of numbers, to what extent has the implementation of these AI tools and automation solutions increased your team's productivity? Yeah, that's a good question, by the way.
Yep, it's a great question. So I can give an example on me and some of our other team members. Basically, right now, I have commits, and commit is a way to collaborate on the project. Daily, it's about 10 to 15 commits on average every day across different projects which we have. So for me, this translates to about 7 times the productivity which I had just 2 years ago when ChatGPT came out, but we didn't have the agentic tools that would allow us to, just type in and it does all the work. Previously, you had to copy paste from one chat to another and just do a lot of your own very manual work. So for me, it's 7x. For our team members, it's roughly the same. So the introduction of agentic coding, as it's called, which is actually AI hasn't changed. This idea of a transformer, the AI, like the output that the model gives is just an advanced autocomplete. This was introduced in like 2017 by Google. The principles of the idea are the same. The thing that has changed is the tools around it. You just allowed this model that can autocomplete your sentences, your code, anything. You just allowed it very quick access to your code base, to the files which you have, to the database that you have, and you expose those tools so that it can construct its own workflows, which is what allowed us to be way more productive, because instead of having to switch between like multiple platforms, you just built all in one.
Fantastic. I'm definitely seeing that. That's always a question, is if we want to go and hire another developer or see what automation could increase the productivity of the existing developer who already is in a context and understands everything. But I feel like as we scale, we still need more developers at almost every stage. The more projects we build, the more developers we need to manage them, the more developers we need to overlook how the project is being built and how it is being scaled. So still feel like there's a room in growth where you can achieve what you used to be able to achieve with 100 people, now you can achieve with 10 people or 13 people. Yeah. But that means that with 130 people, you can achieve 1,000 times more. It's just not a direct math, but very subjective matter, but still. Yep. Any more questions, guys?
Thank you.
Guys, we are always trying to be very active in the community. So we have a WhatsApp group, and you're able to share your questions, more information with other team members, how you're using AI on a day-to-day basis, on a weekly basis, and so on. And we are always happy to see some interactions between the team members. We already heard that they were 2 of our partners of KinesteX who did not know each other, got connected and started collaborating on the project. And we're very excited to create this community where we all can collaborate and share with each other, help each other, and share all the tools that we're using and so on. So if you have any questions, please post them on the community. Either we or other team members will try to respond as soon as possible. And in the next weeks, please expect more of morning talks like this. If you want to participate, in these talks and speak about the product that you're building, how you're building it, and bring something useful to the community, you're very welcome. Please reach out to us and we'll be able to organize it. So the next conversation we're expecting is going to be happening on 14th of July. And there's going to be a conversation between me and a good friend of mine, the CTO of Weltra AI. And Weltra AI is an SDK or a platform, if you will, that helps in health tech specifically. It uses the AI to make a scan of your face for 60 seconds, and it analyzes it and uses RPPG technology to bring a very accurate estimations on the health parameters that you have about yourself, essentially, including the blood pressure, including the HRV, and 10 more parameters. So we're going to be speaking on 14th of July. We will have a chance to ask him questions and so on. We're very excited about everything. Thank you all for joining.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.